Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's the blockchain spell made of David's got so much to tell.
Hello, GM, and welcome to another episode of the Blockchain Experience. I'm your host, MetaDavid. Today's guest is Anjali Young, one of the co-founders of Collab.Land. We all know Collab.Land. They're a one-stop community management tool that curates membership based on tokens. This was one of the most exciting conversations I've had because Anjali is not only very charismatic, but she's an OG in this space and has a very good pulse on what's going on, what people want, what the space needs, where it's going 3 months from now, where it's going 6 months from now, where it's going 5 years from now. It was really cool to hear Anjali's experience being in the internet space in the 90s and the similarities it shares with Web3 today. We also talked about some things Collab.Land released recently, relatively recently, I should say, their marketplace, and also a community-focused film called Let's Form Group. Check out the show notes for links to the things that we touched on. And after the interview, we'll do shout outs for everyone who minted the last episode of the podcast with Larissa from Exchange Art. But before we get to all that, a word from our sponsors. Ledger is the smartest way to secure crypto holdings. Their hardware wallets are trusted by over 4 million customers. Ledger can be used to secure, store, and manage over 1,800 crypto assets. Using the Ledger Live app, you will have a one-stop shop for your crypto needs. Buy, sell, exchange, and grow your assets with Ledger's partners securely and easily. Stop getting your wallet drained. Head over to ledger.metadavideth.com and take self-custody today. Have you ever wanted to display your NFT art in the physical world? Look no further than Token Frame. Token Frame's patent high-quality physical displays start at 10 inches and run all the way up to 55 inches. They're truly built for authenticity. Just sign in with your wallet, connect to Wi-Fi, and cast your NFTs. It's really that simple. And best of all, no subscriptions. Token Frame supports Ethereum, Polygon, and Solana with Tezos on the way soon. It's no wonder they're trusted by OpenSea, SuperRare, Nifty Gateway, and more. Start flexing your NFT art by visiting tokenframe.metadavideth.com. Again, that's tokenframe.metadavideth.com. Anjali, welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you.
GM, good to be here. Thank you for having me, David.
GM. So Collab.Land is a huge name in this space. And I remember when I first entered this space and got into my first Discord server, I was asked to verify ownership of the token that I had bought at the time. So for me personally, Collab.Land has a big place in my heart. But just in case for our listeners who might not be familiar, can you kick it off with an introduction of Collab.Land? And maybe as part of that introduction, if you don't mind sharing, can you tell us a little bit about you, your co-founder, and what the genesis story that inspired you guys to start Collab.Land?
Oh boy. Okay. Those are a lot of questions.
A lot of stuff I'm throwing at you there, but I think a lot of, it's such a ubiquitous part of this space that we want to hear about Collab.Land, but we want to know a little bit about you and what inspired you to start it.
Okay. I'll start with Collab.Land and then I'll talk a little bit about me. So what was the genesis of Collab.Land? Well, our company is Abridged Inc., and we started in 2018 as a social recovery contract wallet and didn't get much traction with that. It was just too early. People were not interested in social recovery at this point. All the people here it was the ICO boom, really. It was like more traders already. They weren't interested in social recovery. It was like, whatever, we're doing MetaMask, everything is fine. We don't need that. And we thought, we want to bring more people into the space. And it's very difficult for people to understand private keys, secret phrase, all of that. And so let's try to make it easy. But of course, back then, there really wasn't much else to do other than trading coins. And so that kind of just fell on deaf ears. We worked on that for 2 years before finally we said, okay, we need to pivot because this is not working. Instead of getting people to come in and start creating wallets and getting the users in, why don't we try to attract more developers? Like the kind of concept of like build the buildings, build the cities, and then people will move in, versus trying to get people to move in and then get the people to start building the city. So we alternated, or I guess pivoted to no code tooling. And this was in January of 2020. We pivoted to no code tooling. And so how do you get people to start using your no code tools? Well, you create some stuff using those tools as a way to inspire them and show them what's possible. And we tried lots of different fun things to show off to developers, and Collab.Land was one of those things. And so Collab.Land wasn't plan A, plan B. It was literally a reference implementation of our no code tooling to say, hey, developers, you can also do something like this, make something like Collab.Land. And then what happened? Most people at that point were like, forget about the no code tooling. Like, we like Collab.Land. This is interesting. Like, oh, what is this thing? Like token gating? What's token gating? You can get people into a group together that all have the same token, and we'll know for sure who's in there. And if they sell the token or transfer the token, then they get kicked out of the group. Like, this is interesting. And so that concept, token gating, came out of that. It was just an experiment of our no code tools.
That's really interesting, because I think for a lot of us, we know you for Collab.Land, but it looks like it was a bit of a journey, a few years in the making, where you tried a few things and then pivoted depending on what the market conditions, and not necessarily market, I would say maybe more what people are interested in and what would provide the most value to them.
Absolutely. And it was really creating something for us, creating something at that moment that we needed. And then it turned out to be what everybody needed. And when I think about that time, and really for anyone that's building in this space, it's like you have an idea, and being a founder is really hard.
Especially in this space.
Oh my word. Especially in this space. Absolutely. For a million different reasons, which could be really its own podcast. But it's like you have to be passionate about what you do, and you have to believe in yourself, because it's too hard. There's so much criticism, and it's hard to find your spot in what's going to work. And so it's kind of counterintuitive. It's like you have to believe in yourself. You have to like believe in what you're doing, but you also have to be flexible, and you also have to be willing to take feedback and go with the flow. And so that's what we did here. But it was because our social recovery contract wallet didn't really work, and we had already pivoted to no code tooling. And so pivoting to Collab.Land, or now being like, oh, people like Collab.Land, we were so excited finally to have like something that people were into and was starting to gain traction. And really it came out of us creating something that we thought was useful for us. And so lots of lessons to be learned from that, I would say, and things that you can't think of ahead of time. But now 3.5 years into Collab.Land, I will say, like, build something for yourself and try not to be so prescriptive about what exactly that you're doing. Like, our goal from the beginning was bring more people into the space. We believe in blockchain. We believe in cryptocurrency. We believe in this movement. We want more people to be a part of it. We see the opportunities for people and what future can look like if we're all in charge of our own global currency together. And let's see if we can bring more people into it. And so for us, it's like that larger narrative, that larger North Star of like bring people into the space, we were able to hold on to, even though the way that we were getting people into this space was very different from what the original idea was.
Yeah, and I think that's a great story in terms of resilience also, because I know that we have a lot of creators and founders listening too, and it would be just easy after the social recovery thing to just be like, you know what, let me just kind of like leave the space altogether, or just, you know, I think a lot of people would do that. That's a natural inclination.
Well, I mean, you know, it's interesting. And that also, like, leaving the space, not leaving the space. We're older. My husband and I are co-founders, and we have a third co-founder who's the CTO that manages all of he's like the technological architect of the company. We are old enough to have been around from the beginning of the internet, right? And so I graduated high school in 92, was already online at that point, dialing up to BBSs with my modem. And then my first job out of college was at an internet startup in 1996. We thought we had solved search. This is years before Google. And then my husband also is a developer, and we did leave the internet. Like during the dot-com bomb, the crash of the internet, where it was like, the internet's over, everyone, pack it up and go home. We did. We left the internet. We stopped working in the industry, and that wasn't going to happen again. And so that was really it, which is like, this is a second time for us. Like, who knew that this was going to come back around 30 years later, like, or 20 years later, or whatever it is. It's like that moment, that feeling of, wow, there's something special here. Like, let's not let go this time. We just couldn't. Like, it's just too special.
Yeah, so you and I are about the same age. I graduated from high school in 97, and this is a topic that comes up frequently in the podcast, which is that there's a lot of the same vibes right now that there were back in the 90s with the internet. And I think for those of us old enough, we're seeing the vision that we might have not been seeing before, or maybe we weren't quite old enough, in the sense that obviously, you and I being the same age, we have a lot more resources now than we did in the 90s. So we could have that resilience I was talking about, withstand a little bit more. I'll maybe speaking for myself.
But also, you just don't know. Like,
yeah,
now
the
we
vision,
know.
yeah.
Now we know. Like,
Yeah.
Of course it was exciting, and it's hard to imagine now, but it's like, yes, resources. I went to law school after that. A lot of people, I think we had the most amount of people going to grad school like during that time.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it absolutely, like, we don't have the resources to maybe stick around, but also you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in my 20s. Like, I had never experienced anything like that before. Like, people are like, the internet's over. I'm like, okay, it's over. Like, it's not until you've experienced it the first time where you're like, of course it wasn't going to be over. Like, just wisdom, right? Like, just being older and knowing, like, now knowing people want to be together. People want to find easy ways to coordinate, collaborate, work together. Like, you cannot stop that. It's inevitable. We all want to be together. We all want to work together. We all want to find ways to easily transact with each other, to create something together, to solve the world's problems together, to start businesses together. We all want that. Human nature is for us to be together. And this is another tool for us to be together. My husband, my co-founder, he often says, like, this time, it's almost like the creation of time itself. Like, when we use time as coordination, like, you and I can meet right now. I'm in Singapore, you're on the East Coast, and you can say to me, let's meet at this time, and I can look it up, and I know what time it is for me, and you know what time it is for you, and we're looking at the same graph of what time is as a coordination tool. The blockchain is that. We're all looking at the same database, and we'll all have the same information. So it's like, of course it's going to work. How can it not work? Of course it's going to work, because we all want that. We want that standard that allows us to coordinate together. So this time it was much easier. Like, I don't know where else we would go that is going to be as significant, as impactful as what we're doing right now.
100%. And I think one of the cool things about Collab.Land is that coordination aspect, bringing people together. And I know that from my experience, my first entry point involved Collab.Land when I entered in that Discord server that I talked about earlier. And I think for a lot of people, they associate Collab.Land with Discord server, but I know that it's way more than that you guys do way more verification and token gating and other experiences and services outside of just Discord server. So can you talk a little bit about what else that you guys provide, some of the novel use cases that you guys have seen being deployed out there?
Sure. Well, we're a Telegram bot first, and still are. Telegram is really where we started, and that's where crypto was at that time. It wasn't on Discord, but people kept asking for more and more complexity on Telegram. Like, what if there's multiple tokens? What if there's different types of tokens? What if we want to have general channels at places for non-token holders and places for token holders. And my co-founder, who's also my husband, had worked with Jason Citron in gaming years before. He comes from gaming. Jason Citron also comes from gaming. And so he literally called up Jason and was like, hey, if I bring my bot to Discord, will you shut me down, or are you cool with it? And Jason said, well, if I wasn't doing Discord, I'd be in crypto. So come on over. And this is before there was any crypto on Discord. So we were able to usher in this bringing over crypto. And now every crypto project has a Discord server. So it's awesome and we love it. And it's so exciting because they spend so much time and energy really building a space for communities. Like Discord does an amazing job. And we're just happy to be involved with them in that way, and that they've been so supportive of us and also so supportive of crypto in general. So yeah, so we do that. And then we also have APIs for token gated websites. So people can use Collab.Land verification on their own websites for lots of different uses, on their mobile apps, on their web apps. You can also move your community, and not move, but you can expand your community. Like we already see that with Discord. Like people have Discord servers for the main group, and then they'll have sub-communities, subgroups on Telegram. And so it's like already people are moving around, and now you can have token gated websites for your community where they don't have to sign up with their wallet again. They can still use Collab.Land verification with a login with Collab.Land. So you can have a website, you can have a merch site, you can have an event site, you can have other places where people want to interact with their communities. And as communities continue to grow, that's what we see. Everyone isn't going to be in Discord all the time. You have to meet people where they are. And so there are going to be people that maybe only want to be on Notion, or only want to be reading their Google Docs, or only wanting to be on GitHub, or only wanting to be on Telegram, or wherever website they want to be. So making that flexible for communities, I think, is really important. And that's part of what Collab.Land does as well. However, that being said, Discord really still is the largest number of communities. We have 53,000 communities right now, 3,000 on Telegram and 50,000 on Discord. And those communities have not stopped. Communities still continue to grow, especially during a bear market. That's one of the things I'm a bit envious about for other projects, because, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's like during a bear market, you get an opportunity to kind of slow down, take stock, decide how you're going to prepare yourself for the next bull market, because it will come. Like I said, all the reasons that I mentioned, it will come, even though it feels like this right now. It's inevitable. Everyone who's listening, it's inevitable. But people get that opportunity to kind of like chill for a minute and plan for the next cycle. And for Collab.Land, there really isn't any slowing down. The number of people who join communities continues to grow. The number of communities continues to grow. Some communities fall away, but other communities emerge. It's been just as much of a growth as before. Fewer number of communities, but the amount of people who are joining our communities are just as much. On a slow day, we'll have 2,000 new wallets joining Collab.Land, and on a top day, we'll have 4,000 wallets joining Collab.Land here in the middle of a bear market. So it's like, it's crazy. People still need each other and need community and want that, especially now. So even though there's slowing down in the rest of the ecosystems, community is still existing and is still thriving.
So you're talking about some numbers there, which were pretty interesting, because we always hear about this doom and gloom about people leaving the space or like other things. But obviously with Collab.Land, you have more direct line of sight, because these are real wallets that hold real tokens that actually have real identity. So it's not something that's gamified or anything of that.
It's not, because you have to buy a token,
right? You
have to have a wallet, and you're signing a message. But, we're across now 26 different blockchains. And so I find that people are pretty siloed in terms of what chain they're following, right? Mm-hmm. Like what's happening in Solana, or what's happening in ETH, or what's happening in whatever. But we have 26 different blockchains. this is an aggregate number. And I don't know how many other projects are out there other than like DEXs maybe, or DEX aggregators that are servicing such a large amount of chains, where you can really, if one chain is slow this week or this month, there's going to be another one that's pumping that week or that month, or communities are growing on that one. So that's what we see from our eagle nest view.
So as a thought leader, I'm going to ask this question because you kind of went into it. How important do you think is the blockchain that's being used for like do you think that people in this space are putting too much weight and are being like maxis of a particular blockchain? They're ETH maxis or Solana maxis. Do you think in the future, is the actual blockchain itself going to matter that much? Or in the future, does your crystal ball see it really doesn't matter? People just want something that works. I mean, I guess you can tell because I've asked it kind of in a leading question what my thoughts are around that, but I'm just kind of curious from your perspective as a thought leader that has better line of sight into these things, what you think the future is.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's trying to find their niche. That's just what it is. You know, I was talking to Avalanche here. I'm at Token 2049, and it's like, oh, they're moving hard into gaming right now. So it's like everyone's kind of, or Sui chain is moving into gaming, or what, you know, different chains are doing different things, or known as a DeFi chain or whatever, NFT chain. And so it's like, yes, I believe in a multi-chain future. And we should all be supporting that.
Yeah.
I believe. And from us, we are not maxis. I mean, originally ETH maxis, I will say, only because we come from a developer background. And so Bitcoin didn't really have that opportunity to be a developer. And so when ETH came, it was like, oh, I can have a smart contract. Oh, I can build on ETH. Like that was a huge unlock and awesome. And so I would say definitely that's where most of my bags are, not financial advice, just because I'm sentimental that way. But with Collab.Land and really what I think of the future of blockchain and crypto and Web3, whatever you want to call it, I still call it crypto. It's a multi-chain future. And so, I mean, already, if you're collecting POAPs, you're doing it on Gnosis chain. Like you're already multi-chain, but it's like, what chains are you going to accept and not accept? Before it was ETH only. Now it's like EVM. It's like, what are you really into? I mean, I think there's going to be room for everybody. We will see some chains that are used that can afford to be more multi-purpose, but I think we're going to also see a lot of niche, like boutique chains as well in the future.
Yeah, I see it the same way. I think that there's a lot of weight being put on being a particular, it's almost like it's a part of a team or being a maxi of like one chain. And I think that in the future, it's going to be a multi-chain world, and they're all going to have their own. What? I
will say I'm okay with it right now. As far as like the maxi, you kind of have to be like, we're kind of in a position where people are kind of attacking at all levels. It's okay to be passionate. It's okay to believe in something, and it's okay, of course, believe in crypto in general, but it's okay to be passionate. Like anyone who's passionate about something, I think we need passionate people right now, and we do need that kind of passion and excitement. And so it kind of goes hand in hand with that. Of course, fighting amongst each other is not the approach. So that's silly. There are too few of us to be fighting amongst each other. But if you're a maxi, like as long as you're not putting other people down and it's just your own enthusiasm, like be enthusiastic. It's like being a fan of the Broncos.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you're advocating for a particular blockchain or being super passionate, that's fine. But I don't think you have to do it in a way where you're fighting another blockchain, because in the future, I think there's room for all these blockchains to exist, and they all will serve different functions. What Bitcoin will do will be different than what Ethereum will do, than what like a layer 2, like, why am I drawing a brain fart right now? Arbitrum, or pick your L2 of choice. I think there's room for a lot of them. I'm not going to say that they're all going to exist in the future, but I think that a good number of them will exist, and they all just will have their separate. And even like with layer ones, I think we'll have competing layer one, not competing, but just layer ones that service just a different group of people. Like right now, current state would say that Tezos has a very much like art focus, although they do a whole bunch of other things as well and service other types of clients.
Which is really interesting about Tezos. Exactly. It is art focused, but it wasn't initially art focused. And if you talk to the Tezos Foundation, that's not what their original plan was. But again, you have to be flexible and you have to service the people that are using you. Like you cannot be so prescriptive over how you want it to be. And then when people are using your chain for a different reason, be like, no, that's not going to work for me. You shouldn't be doing that either. So, now we think of as Tezos as like the art chain or like the, emerging art chain. But I don't know if you would have talked to the Tezos Foundation, which we did years ago. I don't think that would have been their perspective.
You mentioned earlier API. So when I hear APIs, that becomes really interesting because I'm thinking about builders and I'm thinking about a marketplace maybe that you guys have deployed. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the marketplace we have is an admin portal, an admin marketplace where Collab.Land, if you have the Collab.Land bot installed in your server, the idea was we don't want to build everything. We have so many different types of communities, as many different types of people there are and admins there are communities. So we have gaming communities and DAOs and NFT communities and DeFi communities and really all different types of communities, and they all have different needs. And so for us, it's like we want to continue to support communities, but for us to think we're going to be able to build everything for every different type of community just makes no sense. Like that's not what we're here for. We don't want to build a team up 100 people or 300 people and just try to start guessing what people will want. Collab.Land itself came to be and has grown over the last 3.5 years, really from our feedback from our communities themselves on how we can better improve our product, but really got to the point where we're like, people are asking for so many different things. And how do you spend your time? How do you do it? And it just made sense to become a more of a infrastructure level where you can build on top of Collab.Land. And now if you have the Collab.Land bot installed, you can go to the admin portal. We have a mini app marketplace there. You can one-click install all different types of apps. We just launched Huddle. I don't know if you know, it's like a decentralized Zoom. Huddle just came on. We have the DAO just passed 3 new apps, but Huddle is one of them. But we have a POAP app, we have verifiable credentials, we have a snapshot integration, we have an AI where you can like put in your docs and then have your members come in and ask questions so you can get just your information. So it's kind of like for onboarding or for support questions. Like people need different types of services. Not everyone's going to need everything. And so having this mini app marketplace where people can actually customize their own experience was important. So we launched that in March, and there are new mini apps that are being added all the time, 3 just last week. But we also have a dev portal. So we have the admin portal and we have a dev portal. The dev portal is where you can get free API for Collab.Land, and then after you've started using it and you become more successful, you have more people using it, then you can move into a paid version of the API. So we also have a dev portal. And then we are also going to be launching a member portal. So the admin portal, the dev portal, and a member portal as well. So we've got a lot of things in the works, and we're really trying to support all of the personas who interact with Collab.Land. The devs actually are our newest persona. We've always interacted with members like you, and also have always interacted with admins, but our dev portal or developers are our newest persona. But they're integral to the future of Collab.Land because we cannot guess what everybody wants, and there's just too much diversity amongst crypto communities themselves to try to serve everybody.
For the dev portal, have there been any things that have been launched out of that portal? I know that's a little bit newer that you can speak about that are making waves.
Yeah, so there's a project called the Success Finder, which is for like business leaders that have NFTs now. And then you can buy their NFTs or buy their token, and then you can join their channel. So they have their own network called the Success Finder for business improvement, becoming a business leader, like business thought leaders. And they use Collab.Land as well for their token gating for their platform, and they use the APIs.
Okay.
So
And it seems like that's something that they can monetize as they scale, as you mentioned earlier. When a developer picks up traction, maybe using the API a little bit more frequently, you guys would kind of monetize it, but they would monetize a lot more than kind of give you guys a little percentage of that. Or I don't know, the exact breakdown of that, but there's just something there's something that they can.
Yeah. So with the API, it would just be paying for API access over a certain threshold.
Okay.
But for the mini app marketplace, they can have a subscription for their mini app itself. And so then it would be more like an Apple App Store type situation where they would give some percentage back to Collab.Land because we're really a distribution network for them for any of these apps. And then they would be able to monetize at that level. If you create an app and it becomes popular, you're going to be like, oh, I want to start charging for that app. Then of course that would be your prerogative to start charging for the app.
Okay, so you can monetize that way. And then, so how does the DAO play into it that you mentioned before that they approve like 3 apps on the admin portal?
Yeah. So the way the DAO works is that it curates the marketplace. So people are creating apps for the mini app marketplace, and the DAO, we have a demo day. The developers come, they show a demonstration of their app. The DAO sees it. We, of course, record all of it for people that can't be there in real time, and then vote on whether or not it should be included in the marketplace at all. So it's really for the curation of the marketplace because it should be for the people. Like with our token, we have a token and it's a community token. And the purpose of the community token is for all of the people that have ever participated with Collab.Land to have a voice in what Collab.Land becomes. And that is how we're doing it. You get to decide what goes into the marketplace and what features are going to be available to Collab.Land communities. And that's only possible because of blockchain. Like in other places, it's just not possible. Facebook's not asking you what features you want. Like you don't get to decide as a member of like what you want to see available on Facebook. Like with Collab.Land, you actually get a voice on what gets to what features are going to be available for Collab.Land.
And does the DAO have like a treasury also?
Yeah, the DAO has a treasury, and has more than 50% of the token. Right now, I think it's like close to 75% of the token. Yeah, so it has a treasury. And it's going to be for different reasons. Like if we're going to be able to put bounties out, like if people make proposals for the Collab.Land token to be used for bounties because they want to see something made, but they're not developers themselves, and we can put out bounties so that other developers can take those bounties and create what people want. Like that's the idea. And we actually, in our Collab.Land Discord server right now, we have like a mini app idea channel. So like anyone that has ideas can go and drop their ideas for what they want to see made, and developers can go and pick up those ideas. But in the future, it could absolutely be bounties. And that's why we have a treasury.
Yeah, that's where my head went at. You answered my question there. Is I was curious about how that system works, and I could see that the value being provided in terms of having those bounties and it solving a whole bunch of different problems.
Yes, and it's really interesting because there are projects like Huddle is its own project. They have their own full-fledged website and they have their own project, but they have built a small, lightweight version of the Huddle app for Collab.Land. So it's like getting your name out there, getting users out there. And really, why do you want users? So that you can get feedback. Like every project is better when it gets to iterate. And how do you iterate? By feedback. And so having people actually use your product and tell you you're crap, or usually it's tell you that you're crap, and then you can say, why am I crap? And they'll tell you why you're crap. And that is the gold right there. When people tell you like why they hate you, and you say, okay, what would you like me to do? And they tell you exactly what you want to do. And that's the gold right there. And so, a distribution network for community projects is huge because we want more projects that are building for crypto communities. You know, like we talked about at the beginning, it's like so many people are still, crypto communities are their onboarding event. And so it's like, it's really important for us to treasure and keep that precious. And so anyone that's building for crypto communities, we want to support any way we can.
Do you think the fact that you're organized as a DAO kind of helps from a product perspective, giving that feedback? Because if outside of that, in like the Web 2 world, you develop an app, you put it on like Apple's marketplace, you get some feedback in terms of like the reviews, but you don't necessarily, I feel like, have as direct line of sight. Whereas with a DAO, perhaps maybe you do, because you have that validation as far as like the approval goes. And then you're also getting more direct. It's on the blockchain, so you're getting more direct feedback. And it might also help facilitate making sure that the feedback that is being given, I hate to use the word more valid because it sounds a little bit more snotty, but it sounds a little snotty, but it maybe is a little bit more tangible and actionable, perhaps, than as opposed to some people who just like put feedback up there just for the sake of feedback. Like, do you see some areas where just like it being organized as a DAO provides some superiority over like what exists in the Web 2 world from a product perspective, and just being able to iterate in a thoughtful, meaningful way that truly provides value for the end users?
Yeah, I mean, people care, I will say. If they're showing up to the event, if they're commenting during the public comment period, if they're giving you their feedback, they're doing it because they care. And people are passionate in this space, especially even now, right? Like, people actually have a little bit more time. Like, there isn't that frothy fire hose time of the bull market. And even you were in NFTs in the bull market, it's like, what am I even paying attention to right now? It's like whiplash, because there's just, you don't even know, like, it's hard to even get above the noise at that point during the bull market. Like, everyone's announcing everything, and you're like, what's important? What's not important? New mint today, this drop this day. It's just madness. But now during a bear market, people do take the time to learn, to build relationships. That's a huge part of what a DAO is about, is building relationships and contributing. And so that way you're kind of building a reputation for yourself, and the relationships between the developers and the DAO members and the DAO members amongst each other. It is a good time. Like, anyone that's out there right now, like, listening, it is a good time to get involved with projects right now, get involved with DAOs right now, join communities right now, because building that reputation now, and I can speak for ourselves, like, the people that were our very first supporters with Collab.Land were people that we knew before the bull market. We knew even before Collab.Land, right? And so it's like, you don't know what the future is going to look like, but those relationships that you build now are crucial. And so if you're giving good, positive feedback, and I don't mean positive feedback, I mean any feedback, thoughtful feedback to a project, like, they're going to remember you, and other people are seeing that. And it does bring you back value when the bull market comes back around. So I don't know. I have this issue a lot with like reviews, in different places. I never know if I can believe reviews or not, because it's like no one that thinks things are working just fine is ever going to review. Like, no one. And so it's like, oh my God, why are there all bad reviews here? It's like, oh, the receptionist was this or that, or this happened, my food was cold that day, or whatever. It's like, reviews are junk. Like, I never can even use reviews, because you or me, or we're like, we go somewhere, we have a nice time, we're not going to go home and write a review about it. It was fine. Life went on. Everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. It worked perfectly. And I'm not going to write a review for something that worked as expected, even though I may have higher standards and I'm like, wow, that was delightful. But still, for the amount I paid, I expected it to be delightful. And so I'm still not going to write a review. So it's just, reviews are ridiculous. And so that just feels silly anyway. And in Web3 or in crypto, it's like, you can also get recognition, right? You can get a verifiable credential. You can get a POAP. Like, you can build on it. You can build an on-chain reputation for your contributions. They may not be financial now, but they can be in the future. Or maybe for a job that you want to have in the future. Or maybe you want to start a project. It's like, you can take your contribution with you, which is so special about what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think it kind of brings it back to full circle when you talked about like coordination and kind of helping facilitate and usher a lot of those things, whether it's like meeting with people or just like bringing together like your credentials and work experience and putting all those things in blockchain, because it's sometimes an issue that, like with resumes, sometimes people put, projects on there that they didn't really work on or had minimal contributions, but you can leverage the blockchain in a more meaningful way to take advantage of some of those things.
Absolutely. And there's another way, and I'm kind of glad we're talking about this, but like, reputation building, resume building through the blockchain through verifiable credentials is so important because think about it in terms of like the middleman or gatekeeping. And that's really with cryptocurrency, it's like we're taking out the middleman, right? Like we don't need a middleman anymore. And in the same way with reputation or an online resume, you're removing the middleman, which is your previous employer.
Yeah.
Or the employer before that. Like, what if it wasn't a good relationship at the end? Like, how do you then, call my boss to know what kind of employee I was? Like, this system is whack. And so it's like, and it also, you end up situations where you're a woman, or maybe you're a person of color or whatever, or you're from a different cultural background. Like, there's so much that can get messed up. But when you have like your reputation of, I attended this event, I participated in this vote, I got this verifiable credential because I was an alpha tester for this, it's like that can't be taken away from you. And you don't need to have someone vouch for you. And that's just such freedom for all of us, really.
Yeah, it makes, I feel like, measurement more merit and truly performance based as opposed to like relationship based, which you and I both know, having been around the corporate block, sometimes that could be an issue. And not necessarily the people that put in the work get recognized, but it's the people with the loudest voices and, the biggest pets.
Really awful when you think about it, because it's like, it's just people to people, and what I need at what I'm going to be doing at my new job may be different from what I was doing at my old job. And let my new employer, my prospective employer, look at my on-chain activities and determine whether I'm a good fit or not asking my previous boss, like, oh, what was this person like? And what did they do for this? It's like, that's so
they might be having like a bad day. Yeah, it's just so weird.
And subjective. Yeah. It's totally subjective. And really being able to see it in black and white, what I did, I should own that. Like, what we do, we should own. Just like the time that we spend anywhere, we should get credit for that time. And so it's just, we're lucky to be here right now. And it's interesting because I never think about, like, I'm turning 50 this year. And it's like, I never thought, oh, I wish I could live another 100 years. But because of blockchain, because of this, all the unlocks that I know are going to be coming out of this, a global public database, like, I think about the future. It's going to be so awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And I think that's really what, is the case for being in this space, is just it's solving so many different problems, and there's so many boxes being checked. And yeah, I'm similar to you. I'm just so passionate and optimistic about what the future holds. And it just, yeah, we could probably riff on it forever. And I feel like anyone that's been skeptical of the blockchain should listen to this episode, because this whole conversation, we didn't talk at all about speculating on whether a particular token's going to go up and down. I mean, just like the blockchain is so much more than that crypto is just a part of that, but there's a whole bunch of other things. It's sort of like, to me, equating the internet with just saying, oh, is that email? Or going back, in the days, is that just like FTP? And it's like, well, yeah, that's a portion of it. But there's this whole other aspect of it that, and there's other aspect being multiple aspects of it. And I feel like the same
multiple aspects of it. And we didn't even talk about AI, but with AI coming in, it's like identity. Like, without blockchain, how are people going to
authentication?
know?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to need that, verifying that we're humans. Right? It's like, we're already in that place where, like, who's a bot, who's not a bot, proof of humanity. Like, the blockchain is going to be able to help with that. And so AI and the blockchain are going to work together, and we're going to be able to know who's really who. So it's an inevitable future. And what I think about and what I get the most excited about is being able to solve humanity's greatest problems together. Now that we have a global currency, now that we're able to align incentives across geographical boundaries, political boundaries, like, are we going to get the right people in the room together in order to solve some of our major problems in the world? And that makes me very, very excited.
And I think with Collab.Land, you guys are perfectly positioned to help solve a lot of those problems in terms of like verification and proof of humanity and probably things that maybe you can't talk a whole lot about right now. But I'm going to ask this anyways. It's just like, do you guys have any upcoming announcements that we could be looking forward to or things that you can allude to?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mentioned our member portal. So we're going to be having a member portal, but along with the member portal, we're also going to be activating. So I guess I'll use the activating word. But within Collab.Land communities, only about 15% of them have wallet and have joined as a holder. We have a whole 85%, 86, 87% of people that are just in these communities, no wallet, just curious. And what we're going to do is activate those users using 4337 and account abstraction. We're going to be giving them a signer key, giving them a smart account, and giving them their first little bit of crypto assets in order to get them started on their journeys. So we're very, very excited about that. Like I said, from the beginning, our mission is to get as many people involved with crypto as possible. And I use the term crypto broadly. I guess we can call it Web3, blockchain, all of this. And that's kind of the plan, is to activate all the people that we can touch to get them and pull them into what we're doing and let them see what's possible here. Because one of the greatest gifts of this, other than being able to speak to people like you, which thank you, David, this really, I appreciate so much to be able to talk about this and for people to want to listen, but it's to activate people and for them to see what's possible. Really quickly, I'm going to do a plug, which is for our short documentaries. We have Collab.Land created a series of short documentaries called Let's Form Group, and we're at letsformgroup.xyz. And there's stories of creators, of different people, passionate people who are using crypto, using Collab.Land also to accomplish something really meaningful. And it's like, you too can do that. Like everybody can do that. You can find your group and you can find the people that are interested in what you're interested in. And through crypto, through blockchain, you're going to be able to come together, align incentives, and create something magical and beautiful. And we've seen so many people change their own lives, change their families' lives, change their communities' lives. And I want that for everybody.
Yeah, very cool. We'll be sure to include a link to those videos for Let's Form Group in the show notes so people can take a look at them. Anjali, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and also just want to acknowledge and appreciate the vast contributions that you've made to the space in general, making it like more enriching and just bringing people together, empowering projects to provide those experiences that ordinarily we wouldn't be able to have. And again, I'll say, like, you know, one of my first interactions with like a DApp, with a Web3 application was Collab.Land. So you guys definitely have a huge, place in my heart. And I think a huge place in the heart of a lot of our listeners, because I think every single person has come across Collab.Land, and just really appreciate, again, your contributions. And of course, making the time to come out and, provide your wisdom here on the podcast. I know that, it's really late your time, because you're out on business travel. So that's definitely not lost upon us.
Thank you so much. This is probably one of my favorite things, is to be able to talk about this, talk about the work, talk about what's possible, and really tell people, like, this is something special. Come join us, be here. It's not too late. And there really is an opportunity for everybody. Part of the beauty of PFPs, really, and what I love about them, is the freedom. For a lot of people, they feel limited because of how they look or where they come from. And PFPs allow that identity. We're open to anons. We're open to pseudo anons. Like, you can be free, and really just your thoughts, your ideas, your mission, your vision, like, it matters. It matters here. So come join us.
What a great conversation that was with Anjali from Collab.Land. I just love her energy and enthusiasm. And even though it was close to midnight in Singapore, where she was recording from, she was kind enough to not only spend time with us, but just like bring the energy also. And I think we see with a leader like that why Collab.Land has been as successful as they have been. So now is time for the shout outs. What are shout outs? Each episode of the podcast is made available to Mint on Nifty Gateway. It's only $1, which is the minimum that Nifty Gateway forces us to charge. Otherwise, we make it for free. That $1 does include gas, though, and it is on Ethereum. And the reason we do this is so that we can acknowledge and recognize our listeners and sometimes reward them too. So our listeners think it's pretty cool to hear their name on the pod and appreciate the acknowledgement. So first, I'd like to acknowledge our whales who minted many episodes of the last one we had with Larissa from Exchange Art. And those whales are Arts Design. Thank you for minting again. Testamora, thank you for showing up again. Welcome back. Unicorn D, which I think is certainly a new whale to the family, so welcome. TT22, also a new whale, welcome. CL7, a legend, epic hero, thank you again for minting many episodes. RJD, who I think this is their first foray into whale status, so welcome to the whale family. And Kaplui, who's no stranger to being a whale, so thank you all to minting. I think it's about 7 of you that are whales for this past episode. So whales defined as an individual or a group of people, because some of these accounts I think might represent a collective who minted multiple instances of the episode. So thank you for your support. And of course, we want to acknowledge our minters. So those are CGC42872. I think this is the first time I'm seeing your name on the list, so welcome. Ruan1228, I've seen you before. Thank you for minting. Dutchy345, I know I've seen you before. Thank you. Enable92, welcome back. Thank you. Andre Deco Life, who grabbed one off of secondary. Thank you. Emil MTO, awesome artist. He's also on the Bitcoin Ordinal game, so definitely check him out. His username is Emil MTO. Thank you. And CyberC, who's a notable generative artist. Thank you for minting. DV Dan 101, I'm flying out to the Bay Area, hoping to see you soon. Thank you for minting. DB Reiki, I think I'm saying that wrong, but first time on the list, thank you for minting. Urcon75, thank you for minting. Sir Goat, the good morning legend, thank you, sir. Thank you for minting. And Gold Coin admires good art. That name always makes me chuckle. Thank you. And as always, even if you aren't minting, we appreciate you as a listener. According to the last set of metrics we received, the blockchain experience is now in the top 1.5 podcasts globally in terms of listenership. So we wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much. And please, if you want to support the podcast, leave us a 5-star rating and a written review. Just really helps support the podcast. And man, I got to say, it's been a blast spending the past hour with you guys. So until next time.
Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's the blockchain spell made of David's got so much to tell. Bringing you the latest news without fail. Hey, decentralized and secure. It's been making waves. You can't temper with data. It's not the same old way. From finance to art, it's bringing all the trust. The blockchain experience, it's a must. Hey, welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's not just for the big boys, it's for everyone. It's a new way of doing things. It's second to none. So jump on board, join the revolution. It's a blockchain experience. It's a movement. Give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up for the blockchain experience. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. give it up for Maker David. Hey. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain.